All right, let's get into it. Today, we're going to tackle one of the toughest, but also one of the most important jobs a leader has: how to let an employee go with dignity, with respect, and, well, ethically. Just think about it for a second. If you're a manager, what's that one conversation that keeps you up at night? The one you dread having. It's a conversation that can change someone's life, and it can totally shift the vibe for your entire team. Yup, that's the one. It's that moment you have to look someone in the eye and tell them it's over. It is messy, it's emotional, and honestly, it feels like you're walking a professional tightrope. The stakes are just incredibly high. Okay, so let's be real. If you mess this up, it can absolutely shatter the trust within your team and put your company's culture at risk. But if you get it right, well, that can actually reinforce the fact that you're a strong, ethical organization. So let's break down how to get it right. The entire ethical framework for this really hinges on one simple but super powerful idea. If you remember nothing else from this explainer, remember this. See, what this really means is that the hard work of an ethical firing happens weeks, maybe even months, before that final conversation. It's all about giving someone a genuine, fair shot to succeed. And here's the roadmap for that. It always starts with really clear, direct feedback. If things don't get better, you make it official with a written performance improvement plan, or a PIP. And all along the way, you're checking in, you're offering support. This isn't about building a case against them, it's about building a path for them to get back on track. Now, a pipe isn't just a threat. A good pipe is actually a support tool. It's got to have goals you can actually measure, a clear timeline, and it should spell out the help you're going to provide, whether that's training or other resources. The consequences are clear, for sure, but so is the path to winning. And if you think that no surprises rule is just a nice idea, well, look at this number. A whopping 89% of wrongful termination lawsuits happen because the employee was completely blindsided. Being clear and documenting everything isn't just ethical, it's smart. It's your best protection. All right, so you've done all the prep work, you've given them every chance, but termination is still the only option. How do you actually handle the meeting itself? Well, it all comes down to preparation. Look, being disorganized in this moment just feels disrespectful. So you need a checklist. Have a script so you know exactly what you're going to say. Have the final pay and severance info ready to go. Talk to IT and security beforehand so access is cut off smoothly after the meeting. And always, always have a witness from HR in the room. The meeting needs to be short and to the point. We're talking 15 minutes max. In the first 2 minutes, you state the decision directly, no small talk. Then you spend the next chunk of time just calmly explaining the logistics. And for the last few minutes, you just listen. Let them have their reaction, but you have to be firm that the decision is final. The words you choose here matter so much. Vague stuff like, "we're moving in a different direction," is just cruel because it creates confusion and maybe even false hope. You have to be direct but humane. Connect it right back to the PIP and the performance issues you've already discussed. In this moment, clarity really is kindness. And remember, your job as a leader doesn't stop when that person walks out the door. How you handle the aftermath is just as important for the rest of your team. So first things first, you gotta tell the team what happened, quickly to stop the rumor mill, but without getting into any private details. Then you need to reassure everyone who's left. For the person leaving, you wanna offer a soft landing, maybe with severance or career coaching. And finally, you have to use it as a learning moment. Do an internal review and ask the tough question: could we have prevented this? Okay, so theory is one thing. Let's look at how this plays out in the real world, because the difference between doing it right and doing it wrong is, well, it's night and day. I'm sure a lot of you remember this one. It pretty much instantly became the textbook example of what not to do. I mean, can you imagine? This was just a total disaster in leadership. It was cold, it was blame-heavy, and the timing's awful. The damage to their reputation and their employee morale was absolutely massive. Just zero dignity in the process. Now, let's flip the script completely. In 2020, Airbnb was in crisis because of the pandemic and had to lay off a quarter of its workforce. But the way they did it is now basically a case study in how to do this ethically. The big difference was the tangible support. Their CEO was super transparent about why it was happening, but he also showed real empathy. They gave people generous severance, kept their healthcare going, and this is the amazing part. They created a public website to help their former employees find new jobs. They basically treated them like valued alumni, not like they were disposable. And this table just lays it all out, right? Better.com shows us that how you say it matters just as much as what you say. Airbnb proves that real support and empathy can actually preserve trust even during a layoff. And the Twitter example is a great reminder that when you try to move too fast, ethics and humanity are often the first things to get thrown out the window. So if we boil all of this down, from the first conversation to the very last, what's the one simple mantra you can stick on your monitor to remember? This is it. This is the whole thing in a nutshell. No surprises, no humiliation, and no unnecessary harm. If every step of your process lines up with those three things, you're on the right track. It's about fairness, dignity, and compassion. And that brings us to the final and honestly the most important question. After it's all said and done, a great leader doesn't just dust themselves off and move on. They stop and reflect on this. Because the real goal here isn't to get better at firing people. It's to build a company where you have to do it as little as possible. And that starts way back at the beginning, with hiring the right people, training them well, and managing them with clarity and support. That's the real foundation of a healthy, successful, and truly ethical workplace.